I think oftentimes what people think of when they think of sustainability is things that are going to automatically increase the cost of operating or be expensive in the respect that it requires additional CapEx. But there are actually a subset of interventions, especially within a building, that can be undertaken to not only reduce its carbon footprint, but at the same time actually achieve an ROI.
I'm joined today by Andrew Alesbury, Managing Director at Telesto Strategy. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So given your experience in climate risk analysis and its integration into enterprise risk for REITs, how would you recommend a REIT that is just getting started address rising climate risk to their portfolio?
It's a very good question, and one that we often hear from REITs as this type of analysis is becoming more and more common and demanded by TCFD and other regulations. I would say there are sort of three things that a REIT who's just getting started on this can do to move forward with it. The first would be to figure out what their exposure is to different types of climate risk and different types of climate hazard, be they flood or fire or heat or even air quality. And once they have a sense of what that is, to then take a moment to figure out, is that level of exposure something that they can tolerate or something that they need to think about in the longer run, maybe divesting from, hardening the asset, or maybe diluting in a sense by looking to, through their acquisition strategy, pursue a different level of exposure through new acquisitions which are less risky. And then the final step is, once they've decided whether or not that is something that they can tolerate or not, to make a decision about what comes next. What do we do if we find that we're actually extremely exposed to a specific type of hazard, and particularly in a climate scenario that we believe to be more probable and on a time horizon that we also think is relevant for our business model.
And what are the main reasons that sustainability and decarbonization initiatives don't reach their full potential in the real estate space?
I think there are probably two main reasons. One would be a bit of a failure to recognize these win-win opportunities that exist. And by win-win, I mean win from a sustainability standpoint, something that achieves a decarbonization target, and win from a financial standpoint, meaning that it also ultimately earns a return on investment. I think oftentimes what people think of when they think of sustainability is things that are going to automatically increase the cost of operating or be expensive in the respect that it requires additional CapEx. But there are actually a subset of interventions, especially within a building, that can be undertaken to not only reduce its carbon footprint, but at the same time actually achieve an ROI. Things like heat pumps in certain parts of the United States and Canada are extremely attractive opportunities that meet this sort of win-win threshold. Same is true for certain types of insulation, and certainly the most popular one, which is in terms of low-hanging fruit, is LED lighting. These are just a few examples. So I would say win-win is the first one. Second one is taking into consideration sort of the implementation challenges. I think oftentimes people that are working in the sustainability space are a bit distant from actually making those renovations to the building. You have to talk with your operations team, construction, design, engineering. There's a whole host of actors who need to be involved in making that come to fruition. So thinking through the implementation pathway up front, I think, is critical to ultimately identifying those opportunities and then bringing them to fruition within the building itself.
And what are some innovative ways that you've seen REITs set and meet ambitious emissions reduction targets in resource-constrained environments?
Yeah, I can think of a few. Obviously, that win-win scenario, I think, is another one, focusing on those that also generate a financial return. But there are other ones as well. I think one of the things that is becoming increasingly popular amongst actors in the built environment is to think through what will the future greening of the grid in a sort of business as usual environment do in order to due to our Scope 2 emissions. There's sort of I'll call it a default win that can be garnered by just sort of the different innovations that are going to be taking place at the grid level that will automatically reduce or make cleaner the energy that your building is acquiring. And this is something that can enable you to understand if I make no changes to sort of my operating model as a REIT, what benefit might I get in my Scope 2 or Scope 3 column? And that then permits me to then think even more ambitiously about what I might do in my scope 1 or with other actions to make my buildings more energy efficient.